Hello and welcome to our Lakeside Chat. We are David Wofford and Katie Noonan, co-chairs of the Rotary Nature Center Friends. And we're so happy that you can join us tonight.
As we begin our program, it is important for us to acknowledge that we are on stolen land, that Lake Merritt is part of Ohlone territory. We hear now from Corinna Gould, spokesperson for the Confederated Villages of LaShawn and co-founder of Segura Te Land Trust.
Good afternoon, relatives. My name is Corinna Gould. I am the spokesperson for the Confederated Villages of LaShawn. We are here today at what most folks think of as Lake Merritt. We are in the territory of Huichin. Huichin is actually a territory that encompasses 6 Bay Area cities: Oakland, Berkeley, Alameda, Emeryville, Albany, and Piedmont. And this was a place of abundance. I'm so happy that people from all walks of life that now come into our territory can enjoy this beautiful place that my ancestors have enjoyed since the beginning of time. My relationship to the land that I have been born to, raising my children and grandchildren here, has been to tell the story, the truth of what happened on this land before other people came here. I'm hoping that as we begin to learn these lessons of fires in California, the pandemic that's happening, that human beings come back to living in reciprocity with the earth.
Thank you, Corinna, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. What a great opportunity. We're near the winter solstice. It's dark outside, and we get to go birding with an expert birder, Clay Anderson, with the Golden Gate Bird Alliance. So normally at this time, I have some slides prepared of some of the highlights of our last month. And as it happens, I don't have the slides prepared. So I would like to thank some of our, and tell you about some of the amazing things that have happened to us just in the last month. And if I might be able to share a few pictures in the post-chat discussion. But we're privileged to work with some wonderful young people from the Achieve program and also from the New Voices Are Rising program who come every week to work with us and do water quality. And we were able to finish out a year, really, of testing the water quality in Lake Merritt and teaching these young people about the connection between water quality, dissolved oxygen, salinity, plankton, and all of the food web organisms, from the tiniest crustaceans and plankton up to some of the larger ones, as we explored Lake Merritt shores with them. We are preparing some posters to be presented at the State of the Estuary Conference in March. So we're involving the students in all different levels of scientific process, from just enjoying nature to asking questions to collecting data and trying to present what we found. So very proud of that. I'd also like to thank the Oakland Public Library for hosting us for an event last week, in which we were able to bring some of our hands-on activities into the library for people to enjoy. I'd like to thank Janai Southworth, who's I think amongst us, and Janai Southworth, who brought in her microscopes and some plankton samples from Lake Merritt, so that people could see firsthand the bottom of the food chain and experience working with microscopes and ask her questions. She works with the National Marine Sanctuaries and has just a wealth of knowledge. So that was really special. We also had guests from iNaturalist come out, people who do a lot of work with that platform, and be able to share their expertise with some of the young people we work with. And we've got a few recruits to iNaturalist, which is really helpful to everybody in the science community in gathering data that they can't possibly be everywhere to get, and also to the young people who are more aware, and anybody who uses iNaturalist more aware of our place in the natural world, which is an amazing gift. Then let's see. I know I'm missing something. Oh, yes, I am. We have had the opportunity and the pleasure of hosting some school groups this last month, and working on our curriculum offerings to classrooms. And it's very enjoyable to work with that kind of a grouping, as well as we also held a bio blitz, or a tabling event where we had people at a table talking to passersby at Lake Merritt, in-person interaction with the public, collecting information about the what's living at Lake Merritt, what's there after the catastrophic fish kill in the summer of last year, 2022. So that was really special to meet people and to share the knowledge that, you know, things are coming back, and it's really interesting to study how they come back and what comes back. And so at this point, I'd like to ask David, would you like to add anything to that, or Tony? Oh yes, I want to add something.
No,
Go
not
ahead.
right now,
David. I pass the ball to you, David.
No, I didn't have anything to add to all that we've been doing the past week or so.
Okay. And then I just wanted to thank Tony, who's been working with curriculum and with his St. Paul's middle school kids. He's just got a lot to offer, and in working with him on the library event, I became more keenly aware of all of the wonderful work that he has done that we would like to share with all of the educators in our community. It's just a great resource here at Lake Merritt that Rotary Nature Center Friends really would like to promote.
Okay, I did have something to share.
Oh, good. Yes.
Two penguins were sitting on an ice slope.
Mm-hmm.
One says to the other one, "Have you seen my brother?" And the other one says, "I don't know. What does he look like?"
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so at this point, I would like to introduce our featured guest for tonight, Clayton Anderson, known as Clay. I've known Clay probably for a decade. I met him when I was a teacher at Oakland High School, and he was doing work with young people and adults at the lake. And then I also took a birding class with Clay and got to see his amazing abilities, especially birding by ear. It's just amazing to work with him and to be on a bird walk with Clay. So I would like to turn the mic over if you're ready, Clay. Are you ready?
Okay. Basically, I've been a lifelong pupil of nature. It's where I've learned so many lessons. Nature has helped guide me through so many doors and so many experiences in my life and chapters that I can't even count it all. Nature has been a leader as well as a prompt. It's cajoled me and forced me to do the right thing every time. And when I do that and I listen to what nature is telling me, it turns out pretty good. So, lifelong pupil of nature. I was lucky enough to have a mother who encouraged it and allowed me to explore it as much as I could. And she actually kind of enjoyed it. She never really overtly showed it, but I think she really appreciated the fact that I was all into all these weird things, like frogs, and I've had all kinds of fish and all kinds of weird, the snakes and the lizards. He even had a crocodile for a while. And every one of those experiences were educational as well as exciting and informative and all that good stuff. So I've been keeping animals for a very long time and studying nature for, my whole life. So, yeah, I grew up where there was not a lot of money. And so there wasn't a lot of encouragement. Nobody expected you to go to college or further your education or anything like that. So when I got accepted on a grant to go to school, I found out I wasn't really prepared for college. And it was a challenge for a short period of time. And I stumbled along, ran out of money, ran out of grades, and decided that I would move to California to live here with my father. And I was able to work with him, and he got me through the city college levels, the first 2 years of college. And then I transferred over to San Jose State and got my undergrad in drawing and painting after many, many years of working and taking classes. So I graduated with a degree in drawing and painting. I thought I was going to be a graphic designer, but that didn't work out. But I did get a degree, my undergrad degree in drawing and painting. And I got my first job at an environmental organization called Love Life, which probably doesn't exist anymore. So it's down in San Jose. And I won't say what year that was, but learned a lot in that experience and really pushed me even further into environmental education. So I graduated degree in drawing and painting, got my first job at the Love Life Environmental Education Program, and this is my first brochure that I did actually for that group. And it was a lot of fun. Since then I've worked for many environmental orgs, including state parks, Alameda County Sustainable Ag Program. I was probably the second. Rue was the first, but I was the second outdoor Afro leader, and I led for outdoor Afro for about 4 years. So we can change slides there. And like I say, I estimate too far. There we go. I estimate I've done about well over 10,000 kids in my career and counting. Still doing the stuff. It's still fun to me. I love it. So been working right now. I'm working as as Katie mentioned, as the program manager for our eco-ed program at Golden Gate Bird Alliance, which used to be Golden Gate Audubon. Our chapter decided to change its name, which is kudos to them. And now we are the Golden Gate Bird Alliance. So yeah, working on the 8th year, managing that program. And we can move on to, you can go ahead, Katie. Yeah, this is Outdoor Afro here. And here's Golden Gate Bird Alliance. So worked with lots of kids from 3rd grade on up. We're trying to expand into the upper grades now, middle grades and high school, and try to track some of these kids. We work with about 90% POC, kids of color, and moving up in the upper grades will allow us to start to, keep these kids focused. Some of them focused, those that want to be focused on the life sciences, zoology, biology, ecology, wildlife conservation, and seeing that as a viable career path. So we don't know, after 3 years, the program's been running for well over 20 years. We don't know how long, if any of these kids stay with it. So moving up in the upper course, we'll be able to reinforce some of these concepts and hopefully track some of these kids and see if they move into the life sciences and environmental education. It's a really worthwhile career. I've been one of very few that I've been doing, but in recent years, I've been seeing more and more people of color move into this area of work, and it's really refreshing. Let's see. So anyway, down to now, I just finished, was elected Bay Nature Hero Awards in 2021. I've just finished teaching a nature journaling course at Rotary Nature Center, which is now closed, and there's a lot of demand to have that class again. So I'll probably do it again this spring, nature journaling, and we'll figure out how to do it at the lake. But we're gonna try to find. We need to find another venue for the indoor class portion of the program. We do an indoor sharing and learning about journaling, nature journaling, and then we do an outdoor portion that following weekend around the lake. So it's all around the lake, and the program is designed to be around the lake for the entire year, so that we can see the changes in the lake over the year. And that's the most important thing, is seeing those changes and how Lake Merritt morphs and changes throughout the seasons. So that class should be coming up in the spring. Just finished teaching my first college level course on bird songing. As Katie mentioned, I do a lot of birding by ear, and that was up at Merritt College. And I think we'll be back in the spring for that as well. So if you're interested in learning about bird songs, even if you're not good at it, you can learn a few things. Look up my class at the Merritt College if you're interested in that. I just finished authoring an article on shorebirds for Bay Nature magazine. That's going to come up in December. So look out for that as well. And when I'm not doing all kind of birdie stuff, I am playing around in my aquariums. I keep a number of aquariums. I love tropical fish. I'm going on nature walks or nature wanderings, or I'm posing as a carpenter with not very much money. So that's it for me. Now we can move on to some of the birds at Lake Merritt. I keep hearing some high-pitched thing going on. Not sure what that is, Katie.
I'm not hearing it. I don't have it.
I don't know what it is. Anyway, so we'll move on to birds. And this list of birds is mainly for beginners. I can see some people here are a little bit more than beginners. So we'll add a little extra stuff in there for the beginners. For me, it's like I got to get out of the state in order to see new birds. I've birded the Bay Area and in California for so long. I have to travel in order to see new stuff. So lots of good stuff, though, about the locals. And this is our first bird. This is a mallard. Everybody knows what a mallard looks like. These birds, yeah, it's a high-pitched buzz or something. I don't know what it is. This is the mallard, and this is the male on the left and the female on the right. And sometimes people get the females mixed up. They look like some of the other dabbling ducks that we have at the lake, particularly the teals and the gadwall. They all kind of look kind of brown colored, and people may wonder, why is it that the female looks the way she does and he looks the way he does? Well, there's a role role or purpose for everything in nature. And for males, they have these bright colors because they compete with each other. For the females, they also can act as a distraction for predators. If I have a female that looks like straw and a male that kind of stands out against everything, then of course, if I'm a predator, I'm going to go after the male. And the male doesn't go to the nest. So he can act as in default as a distraction for predators as well with the bright colors. The female blends in and can stay more undetected on the nest. Basically, the difference, we would call it there's a word for it, dichromatic coloring. The males looking different. In ducks, males look different from females, and that's because females do most of the nest, the brooding. Males have very little to do with the raising of the young and the brooding. So females, most ducks will build their nest in understory of grasses, and places where there's lots of plant matter, and so they blend in. Somebody's doing something now there's something going on here with the screen. I don't know if everybody else sees that, but
I see it. Now it's gone.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. It should have been off. Okay.
All good. Oops.
I think we're good. We're good now.
That's on the right. It's in half of the female duck. Now it's gone.
Now it's gone. Okay. All right. I think we're good. Let's keep going.
All right. So we're talking about dichromatic coloring, and males are different from females. One, because they're competing with other males, but they're also an attractant to the females. But one thing even more important is that by default, if I'm a predator and I see a female and I see a male, which one am I going to chase? I'm going to chase the male, which has nothing to do with the nest. So the male by default is a detractant from the female, and the female can go on to brood her chicks and bring them to fledge. Whereas the male has nothing to do with doing that, so he can be a distraction for predators away from the nest. So it's kind of a unique thing, and I don't know if the birds figured it out themselves, but that's how it works out. Females want males to have nothing to do with the nest rearing and the brooding, so she keeps him away from the nest. So he spends his time on the pond next to the nest, while she's sitting on the nest on land. So that's a stressful time for her. She's got to blend into the grass so she looks like grass, and that's thus the dichromatic coloring. There's reasons for this, not because it's and I talk to kids all the time, and they say, well, why does the male get all those colors and she doesn't? Well, those colors are for a purpose. They're not just arbitrary. In nature, there's more than one reason for something. Okay, next slide. So here's a little bit more of a challenge for intermediate birders. This is the scaup. And so if you don't know the difference now, you should go down and check it out. Now's the time to learn it. The birds are coming in with the first storms, and we're getting scaups on the lake now. And so a challenge for you is to figure out the difference between the lesser scaup and the greater scaup. And so a lesser scaup, of course, denotes that it's a smaller duck. It's a little bit smaller than the greater. The color is just ever so slightly different. So if you look at the picture to the left, you can see that the bird, the greater on the left, has a green sheen. Now, that doesn't mean the lesser never has a green sheen. It can have a green sheen, but more often than not, that green sheen kind of denotes a greater scaup, whereas the flat black will denote a lesser scaup. Also, the size of the bill the size of the bird. You can see in the middle picture, the nail on the tip of the bill on a greater scaup is wider. It's wider than it is tall, or as wide as it is tall. Whereas on a lesser scaup, that nail is more narrow than it is tall. And if you look at that closely, you can see that size difference. Now you could be waiting like a half an hour for that duck to spin around so you can see the bill. But if you're into birding and you're going to move to the next level, this is one that you got to know. And these birds are thea. In other words, these birds are diving ducks. These ducks are divers, whereas the mallard is what we call a dabbler. So dabblers have a long body. Diving ducks have a short body. You look at this scaup to the side, you can see the body is short relative to the size of our next bird. Next slide. This is our next dabbler, and this is the American widgeon. And the American widgeon is a great bird. Comes here in the winter time. Usually it's gone by March or April. Sometimes they hang around till May, but most of the birds are gone by summer and they go up to breed. Then they're back here again now in the winter time and we get to see them. The male is on the left, female on the right. Again, the dichromatic coloring. This is an interesting duck because I wish I had the sound. They don't quack like a duck. They actually do a little whistle, like a squeaky toy. And if you hear that, you know you've got a American widgeon because none of the other ducks do this little whistling thing. These guys do. But again, that long body, you can see relative to the head, the size of the head, that long body tells you that this is a dabbler. They don't dive underwater unless they really, really have to. They tip over, stick their butts in the air, and they reach down to the bottom of the shallow water in order to eat the invertebrates and the algae that's on the bottom of the lake. And these birds kind of tell you how important these short, shallow water bodies are to these animals. Without those shallow water areas, these ducks don't hang out. They need shallow water, and these are areas that we don't like to preserve because, heck, we could put a house there, just fill it in with a little dirt, and we can build our waterfront property on that. So we're real good at that, and that actually X's out lots of dabblers. At one point, we had hundreds of thousands of these birds coming into the lake every year, including other dabblers like the mallard and the pintail and a bunch of others. But those numbers have dropped off because we've hardscaped most of the lake shore. In other words, we know we have that trail that goes around the lake. That's hardscape, and it doesn't allow for a sloping gradation from the soil or terrestrial area down into the water. And that sloping area creates the shallow water that these dabbling ducks need. So that's another piece of the Measure DD I think we need to push for, is to soften more of the shoulder of the lake so we can get our dabblers back into the lake in that way. Okay, next slide. Here's our next diver. And you can see the short body relative to the head. And most of the divers are carnivorous. This is the bufflehead. And this is our smallest duck in the United States. And the guy you can see there to the right, it's the unfortunate end of a pipefish's life. That thing that's curled around his bill is a pipefish, and there's plenty of them in the lake. So these birds actually dive after live things like fish and invertebrates, crabs, clams, mussels, all those types of things. To the left, you see the male and the female. And the female has the little white patch on the cheek. And also the young birds, the first year of birds that fledge, when they come back down for the winter, they'll look like the female, but that patch is a little bit smaller on the immature birds. On the female, the patch is a little bit larger. And of course, you can see the difference between the male and the female again. These birds are not ground nesters. These birds are tree nesters. They actually build their nest in a cavity. It's really interesting for a duck. You would not think, oh, I'm going to build my nest in a tree. They're not really built for tree living. But this kind of harkens back to their ancestry. They are birds, after all. Maybe they never just lost that ability to do that. So these guys nest in cavities in trees, and this points out the importance of our prairie potholes in the center of the United States, north center of the United States, North Dakota, Minnesota, not Wisconsin, Milwaukee, the beginnings of the Mississippi River Delta or Mississippi River. Those potholes are super, super important for all these ducks. They move up there to nest. There are very few predators, lots and lots of insects in these little potholes of fresh water. And these birds are able to nest in some of the dead trees. We have a habit of cutting down trees when they get old because we don't want the insurance problem. Well, you don't have to cut them all down, but some of those old trees still contribute to the life of the ecology by providing nest holes for birds. And also the rotting wood provides food for tons and tons of insects. So even though the trees are old and slowing down and getting ready to die, even when they're dead, they're still contributing to the ecology. And many of the trees that don't pose an immediate danger should be allowed to stand because they provide protection as well as nutrient for hundreds of insects and many, many birds, as well as mammals. All right, next slide. Okay, and so we've got this bird here, and love them or hate them, they're here. And this is a really good slide. I really like it because you've got all these older birds, and then you've got right in the middle and the down front center is the fledgling duck, geese. This is the Canada goose, and some people think, oh, they're from Canada. They're not from Canada. These birds have been all over the United States for a very long time. How they got the Canadian moniker, I don't know. But when, of course, it goes to winter, these birds head out to the coastline where there's open water, and they'll spend the winter out here in San Francisco Bay. But there's also the resident pairs. So this is kind of a shift migrant. They kind of move in groups, not very far, but to a place where they can tolerate the winter, have open water to feed. So we'll have plenty of geese here for the winter time. And then in the summer, the migrants will move back inland and back north to their breeding grounds, and the resident geese will stay here. Some people argue that the resident populations are different from the migrant populations in some kind of way. I don't know. I haven't looked into that deeply. But suffice it to say, wintertime is a good time to see large crushes of these geese, and then the residents breed here at the lake as well as in other bodies of water around Oakland, and you see plenty of babies come out, and they crush. In other words, the young birds will come together in a group, and they'll be a aunt or uncle or babysitter to watch the crush or young birds until they get to adulthood or to their ability to fly. So you'll see a big pile of these fledglings walking around with 2 or 3 adults kind of guarding them as they grow. And it's a really nice thing to see. So that's Canada goose. Back at the turn of the century, this bird almost got wiped out. They were, back then you could walk around with a gun and you can shoot as many birds as you wanted. Nobody asked questions. Take them home, put them in your freezer, free food. So this bird was getting the numbers were getting low, and then once they stopped doing that, they brought in laws to stop that. This bird rebounded with a vengeance, and now people feel like it's just a pest. But would you rather have not enough or too many? And I think if realistically, If we run through some kind of another pandemic or some kind of a disaster, I want to be able to eat some geese. So that's how I look at it. I'd rather have the problem of too many as opposed to not enough. All right. So next slide. Yeah. So we have this bird here. This is a living, breathing submarine. This is the double-crested cormorant. All cormorants are basically submarines. They can control their buoyancy up and down. You'll see this bird floating on top of the water, and then it'll compress and drop some air, and it'll slide down into the water until his neck is sticking out like a periscope. And then he'll just submerge all the way under very slowly if he wants to. It's incredible how they can control their buoyancy. This bird spends more time underwater and in water than it does above water and in the air. It prefers to swim, not to fly. So much so that one of the species has gone, and more than one species has gone flightless. One down on the Galapagos. But this particular species is kind of unique here in the US because it chooses to spend more time in fresh water as opposed to salt water. We've got three, maybe four other species of cormorants here in the continental US that actually spend more time in salt water. Cormorants, the freshwater bird. If you're in Nebraska and you see a cormorant, you're probably going to be seeing a double-crested cormorant. This bird is built like most other birds. It's a very heavy bird, and it has a uripigio gland. The uripigio gland is a gland right at the top of the tail, right on the back. And the birds will rub their bill in that gland. That gland produces an oil in abundance, as most of the pores do, but this particular area of the gland, the uripigio, produces a lot more oil. They rub that oil on their bill, and then they rub it on their feathers. For most birds, it's a conditioner. That oil actually does repel water, but it also kind of protects those filaments. So the bird's feathers last longer when it has that oil rubbed on. You can see a bird that's sick. He's not rubbing the oil on his feathers. His feathers get brittle, and they start to slough off. So that they do have a uripigio gland that they use, but because this bird makes its living underwater, it wears off faster than for most birds. And so you'll see them come out and do the Jesus bird thing, opening their wings and hanging out and trying to dry out before they go on their next foray. These birds are very gregarious, and so they'll seek each other out for protection. We used to have a colony on the lake, and you can still see remnants of it on the second island. We don't know why they left. Maybe one of the predators discovered their colony. That's usually one of the big reasons. But they took off, and they're no longer nesting on the lake. Hopefully they'll come back, though. If we keep the water quality up and keep the fish coming, hopefully they'll come back. But this is the double-crested cormorant, living, breathing submarine. Some people call it a shag or a hag, and the fishermen hate them because they eat a lot of fish. And yeah, they're eating a lot of fish. But you got to remember that they were here first. These birds have been around for probably, who knows, millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years at least. Human beings have only been around for a couple 100,000 years. So they were here first, and I think they should have every right to eat all the fish they want. All right, we'll move on from the double-crested. And we've got a really goofy-looking bird here. This is called the white pelican. There are a number of white pelicans all over the world. Our American white pelican is the only one we have. This guy, relative to his cousin, is a sedentary hunter. And you can see he opens up that gular pouch, and he can take in 2 gallons of water. And so if you think about it, how much does a gallon of water weigh? About 7 pounds. And so once this bird dips its head underwater, it opens that gular pouch up and takes in 2 gallons of water. And hopefully, if you got it right, there's a fish in it. Now, the problem is, do you think that net can pick up 14 pounds of water? No. So he just holds his head underwater, closes that bill, and he has to slowly close that gular pouch, letting out the water, but not letting out the fish. And that's a trick. So it's a slow motion act to let out that water and keep the fish in the gular pouch. They do pretty good, but there's a bird that actually knows that the pelicans are doing that, and it's called the western gull. We'll see that bird later, but they figured out that pelicans are slow eaters, and if they're not careful, the gull will come right up on the pelican while he's pulling his head out of the water, reach right in his bill, and try to get that fish before the pelican can swallow it. It's a real slick move, but white pelicans have a challenge, and nature's not always fair. So we're lucky to have our pelicans coming in now. The water quality, I think partly because the water quality is going up, and we're allowing for the tide to move in and change, and these birds are able to find more food here. We used to not have that many white pelicans here, and now we're up to, I don't know, I've seen about almost 20 at one time on the lake, which is really nice. So that's the white pelican, and this bird prefers the fresh water, but it does handle brackish water just fine. And so all up and down the coast in the smaller water bodies, freshwater bodies, you'll find this bird. In some of the estuaries around the bay where the water's not so salty, you'll find this bird as well. So it's the American white pelican. And then his cousin, next slide, is the brown pelican. And this guy does the high flying daring act, and he likes to drop into the water in a dive and a splash. And when that bill hits the water, it opens up just like the white pelican, 2 gallons of water. And hopefully he's got a fish in there when he comes up. And of course, the gull will be sitting there waiting as well. But the white pelicans don't do this at all. It's the brown pelicans that do this. And they do prefer the salty water. So you'll find them all up and down the coast. This is another bird that was challenged by DDT, thinning eggs and babies not growing. But it's made us rebound. We've done our work on this bird and gotten rid of the DDT, and so this bird has come back, and now they're actually nesting out on the coast, which is really great. And according to sources, hopefully we'll get this bird nesting back on Alcatraz, because I understand that Alcatraz means pelican in Latin or Spanish or something like that. If anybody knows that for a fact, please drop it in the chat. All right. So, and yeah, brown pelicans will also do some dipping. They definitely are. These birds are Catholic in their taste. They don't leave anything off the list. If they can swallow it, they'll try it. If you go and look up, Google some videos on brown pelicans feeding, you'll see they eat all kinds of stuff. They'll eat pigeons and anything else they can subdue, they'll eat it. Most birds know too, because these guys are very carnivorous and very opportunistic. Okay. And so we'll go to the next slide. All right, so here we are. Oops, a little bit of our conversation. I don't know if we can get that off of there. 2 Artidaes, or herons and egrets. As we mentioned before, the city bird of Oakland, the black-crowned night heron. And this was really cool because it kind of had to do with our program. School kids at Park Day Elementary, where we had already talked with those kids in our program, and they got the idea that after the debacle in the trees around the post office, What about the fact that Oakland doesn't have a city bird? And so they went up to the city council and they spoke and they brought puppets and signs. And lo and behold, the city council caved to these third graders and made the state bird the black crowned night heron. So we take a little bit of credit in that. But those third graders, I mean, you can't deny third graders, right? So it was the right thing to do. And so now the black crowned night heron is now our city bird. And it's cool because they actually nest in Oakland. There's a colony that has just been moving around. We tried to get them to move down to the lake, but that didn't take. Nobody knows why birds nest where they nest. But they're in the trees around the Oakland Museum now. And you can go over and see them coming up in the next few months. They'll start their breeding process. And hopefully we'll come up with a solution to keep the birds safe as they fledge their babies. Black crowned night heron to the right, and his big cousin, big pterodactyl, great blue heron. Here we go. The name Alcatraz is derived from the Spanish Alcatraz. In 1775, the Spanish explorer Juan Miguel de Ayala was the first to sail into what is known as San Francisco Bay. His expedition mapped the bay and named one of the three islands Alcatraz. Over time, the name was anglicized to Alcatraz. While the exact meaning is still debated, Alcatraz is usually defined as meaning pelican. All right, so there we go. Thank you, Mary McTavish. So we got our answer. It does mean pelican. So I hope we can push for that and if you haven't been to Alcatraz, many people have been there, but haven't been in a while, you should go. It has changed. It really has. There's a ton of birds over there on Alcatraz breeding, including the western gull, Brandt's cormorant. If you haven't seen Brandt's cormorant, you should go. Pigeon guillemots nesting there. So the snowy egret is nesting there. It's just incredible. So if you want to see some of these birds up close in their nesting mode, see some of the babies. I've got a picture of one here coming up, and I'll mention it. But if you haven't been to Alcatraz in a while, you should go just to see the birds, because it's really a treat. Again, thank you, Mary. That is great confirmation. So let's make it an effort to make sure Alcatraz moves towards nature and we get pelicans nesting back on Alcatraz, because they did at one point. Obviously, he had his reasons for naming it that. There's documented proof that the pelicans were nesting on Alcatraz at one point. So we're talking about great blue heron. This is a big bird of about 4 feet. Maybe if he stretches, he gets out to 5. If you're a bird bander, you know that the first thing you do when you grab a heron or an egret of any sort, grab their bill first, because they know how to use that stiletto. And many a bird bander's lost an eyeball because of these birds. So they're very deft anglers. It's basically a raptor on stilts. They eat every kind of thing you can imagine. And like a pelican, they'll eat just about anything they can swallow. Many different kinds of fishes and frogs. And we've got pictures of them eating rodents like voles and gophers and squirrels, ground squirrels. They'll eat ground squirrels. There's nothing off the menu with this bird if it can swallow it. So it's a beautiful bird, and they nest around the bay. They don't nest in large colonies per se, but you can see them here and there. I don't know if they're still over at Shadow Cliffs, but there were a few nesting there at Shadow Cliffs, and also, of course, over at Bolinas Lagoon. But there's nesting herons all over. And they're a spectacular bird. They have a really true blue in the back especially when they're at their breeding period. It's just a great bird to see anywhere, any time of the day. If you want to see them on the lake, you want to get out there early before the crowds get there. Once the crowds get there, these birds get a little skittish and they'll take off. Generally, that's the best time to see a great blue is in the morning, late in the afternoon when the crowds are a little bit less. All right, next slide. Oh, and I also want to mention that the black crowned night heron is an archer as well. You want to see them in the evening, and it's getting dark. Walk down to the edge of the lake, and you'll see them poking around on the edge of the lake looking for frogs and fish. They have a long neck, just like the heron, but they keep it folded. Okay. So here we move on to the raptors, and we do have one regular raptor visitor that's visible most of the time at the lake, and that's the red-tailed hawk. Easy to tell red-tailed hawk when they're mature, right? Because they have a red tail. But if you look at this bird in flight, you want to look for it right up in the what we call the patagios, which is that area moving on the wing from the shoulder out. That first section from the shoulder out. I don't know if people can see. I'm pointing to it here with my cursor. I don't know if people can see it, but from the neck going out on the wing, that first section should be black, just like it is here. And if you see that, you don't need to see the tail. You just look for those black patagios, and then you know you've got a red-tailed hawk. They have that from immature bird to adult. Look for black patagios when they fly, and you know you've got it. Now, they're not always flying, right? A lot of times they're sitting and watching. And that bird to the right, you see a couple of tricks is that belly band. So you can just see these patchings on the belly, and we call that the belly band. It goes around between the chest and the belly. It runs from one side to the other. And it's generally very weak, but you can see it. It's a band. Just like on the other bird to the left, you can see it. Their banding is there. So you look for that belly band between the chest and the belly and the face. There aren't many raptors in this area that have a dark face like this. So you look for that dark face and look for that belly band there, and you know you've got 90%. It's probably a red-tailed hawk. So this bird is really an open area predator. It can see 3 times better than we can. It sees you way long before you ever see it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they found that this bird actually can see ultraviolet. There are many birds that can see ultraviolet, but I'm not sure about this bird.
Somebody's unmuted.
Clay, yes. Clay, actually, I'm going to ask if you would mind taking a pause at this moment for us to show a few slides at around the 8 o'clock period, and then continue right after it. So I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. This has just been a spectacular view of the birds that we might see at Lake Merritt. Want to thank Clay, of course, and the many other birders at Lake Merritt who've contributed some of these photos. Many are from iNaturalist postings as well, and really to all of our partners providing knowledge and enhancing our experiences at the Nature's First Wildlife Refuge here in Oakland at Lake Merritt. Okay. Coming up in January, we have another a great way to start the year. We're going to hear from Dr. Noah Whiteman about most delicious poisons. This is a new book he has out, which is about the toxins that plants and then produce, and then sometimes animals which consume those plants use to their advantage, and how these chemicals can percolate and permeate ecosystems with some interesting effects all the way up to and including human beings. It's a wonderful new book that is just out, and I think one of his interests is, of course, the monarch butterflies that we have a lot of interest in here in the gardens and with the pollinator posse located here at Lake Merritt. It's going to be a wonderful program, and I hope you can come to that one. We will have a event on January 13th, the Adopt a Spot Martin Luther King Day of Service, doing grounds cleanup, restoration of the marsh area, and more learning about the lake. In February, we're going to have a talk about nutrients in the San Francisco Bay and what effects they might be having, and how what actions might be taken to reduce them and to reduce some of the negative effects of increasing levels of nutrients coming from water treatment plants and other sources of runoff in San Francisco Bay. So that will be with Jim Irvin. So now I'd like to thank the City of Oakland K-Top TV channel for rebroadcasting our Lakeside Chats the first two Sundays of the month from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. They rebroadcast some golden oldies. We now have 37 chats that they can choose from. And then the ending 2 Sundays of the month, they will broadcast the current Lakeside Chat. If you enjoy seeing what we do, both in providing the Lakeside Chats free and online to everybody, but also working in the community with young people and with really everyone in the area of Oakland that can come to Lake Merritt, please consider making a donation to Rotary Nature Center Friends. We are an independent 501c3 nonprofit, and we provide our services free of charge to students, and of course the Lakeside Chats are free, and we're dedicated to providing environmental education for all. We think Lake Merritt is a special place to do that. Here's what our website looks like if you go to it, and there's a way you can donate there. You can also, if you are interested in purchasing a 2024 calendar, you could pay for that via the PayPal button, or you can email me directly and we can figure out how to make that transaction and get you your calendar. $25 will cover the calendar. This is a 12 by 12 inch calendar, and each page has information about the beautiful birds of Lake Merritt with photography by Kirsten Furman, local artist photographer, who's made an all new selection of her wildlife photos. And many of the photos that we've been looking at are Kirsten's from posted also as observations on iNaturalist. We would like to thank our producer, Rob Limone, and all of the people who work with us, Kirsten, of course, Dr. Janice Lord Walker, Betsy Schultz, Patty Donald, and many RNCF volunteers. We'd like to thank the San Francisco Elks Lodge number 3, who's been supporting our efforts, and very thankful to them. Our mission is we are a citizens group advocating for the Rotary Nature Center in Lakeside Park, delivering interpretive nature and science programs for everybody. So I want to thank everyone for coming. And now we're going to go back to our discussion, and you're welcome to stay on. We usually we'll have a time for Clay to answer questions, and I think, and then to continue, he has more of his presentation to go. So I'm going to stop this share, and we can get back to.
Yeah. Okay. So this So I said the red-tailed hawk was the one that you generally see, and this is the one you generally don't see. Most people don't know that this bird is even exists. It's an amazing bird. It's a what we call an accipiter. And in other words, this is a bird that eats other birds. So if you think it's hard enough for a red-tailed hawk to grab a ground squirrel from 50 to 100 feet up in the air, this bird actually chases other birds through the forest to catch them and eat them. So you talk about aerial master. This bird is incredibly fast. It's incredibly stealthy. And that's why you don't see it very much. But they're here. They're at the lake. And actually, there's a nest in the gardens, a Cooper hawk nest in the garden. So this is the Cooper's hawk. An accipiter, which is slightly different from a booteal, or like the red-tailed hawk. Very small, much smaller bird, sleek and stealthy. And when you see them, it's just a swoosh, and they fly through, and all the other birds scatter, and you wonder why the pigeons just took off. Is because of this bird, and you don't even see it because it's already gone before you figure out where it is. This on the right is an immature bird with the streaking on the chest, and the bird on the left is a full adult with the full red checking down the chest. Males and females are similar, and they also have a smaller cousin, which is the sharpshin hawk.
I think we got it from our viewpoint. You got it backwards. So we're seeing the adult on the right, upper right.
Yeah, did I say left?
On the left. Yeah.
Yeah, so the immature is on the left and the adult is on the right. Yes. And so the male and females are identical, and they have a smaller cousin called the sharpshin hawk. It's a great bird, and if you get into birding deeper, you'll start to pick this bird up. They're all over. They've adapted to living around people, even though they're high strung. Again, they're a bird-eating bird, so they actually hunt other birds. They're related to the peregrine. Well, I'm sorry, they're related to the sharpshin hawk and the northern harrier and the goshawk. So these are pretty high energy, high amp birds. And a lot of people will see them and freak out because they have this big old eye that looks back at you, and you kind of get scared. They're not really interested in dealing with people at all. But they definitely want, if you have a feeder in your backyard, these guys will actually, they'll mark it, and they'll try to pick birds off at the feeder. So a lot of people call us and go, there's this bird sitting on a fence and it's scary and I don't know what to do. And it's a Cooper's hawk that's actually trying to eat the birds that are coming to the feeder. So intelligent bird, but yeah, a little bit on the high strung side. Okay, next. I'll keep them a little shorter. This is an amazing bird. It's one of the goofiest looking things you ever want to see. This is the coot, as they say in the old days, ye old coot. That's where they get it from, this bird. This is the mud hen, or some people call them mud hen. They live in the swamps. This is a rail. It's not a duck. People think it's a duck. It's not. If you look at that bill, see it's not a duck at all, and those feet even tell you even more. Duck's feet are webbed from in between each toe, whereas this bird has flanges on each digit, on each flange of the toe. So it acts the same as a duck paddling foot, but it's designed differently, and that tips you off that it's not a duck. And there's a picture of them going at it, fighting. They're very gregarious. Most of their cousins are cryptic. In other words, they like to hide. They don't want to be seen. They live in the reeds and the swamps. You hear them more than you see them. But this group of brales, this bird, along with the gallinule and a couple others, they're out in the open and they eat lots of vegetable matter. That's why you have this big round body with the small head, because they are actually more of a omnivore or vegetarian than they are just eating insects like most of their other cousins. They're related to the Ridgway's rail. And you can just think about a Ridgway as well, those of you who know what they are. And you can see the difference between these two birds. So this is the coot. And their babies are actually very different. They're very colorful when they're babies. And as they get older, they get the solid black color. This is similar to the Canada goose in that they can be a problem, especially on golf courses where there's lots of free grass for them to eat. But again, rather have a problem of abundance as opposed to not enough. So this is the American coot. All right, go to the next one. Now here's that bird that I mentioned before, and it is actually, if we can get rid of that. Here we go. This is the Western gull. Oops, there goes the gray spots again. This is the Western gull, and they pair up in the springtime. You can see them nesting right here in the Bay Area. They nest down on things that are out in the water, like bridge pylons and buoys and islands. They nest on just about anything where they're going to feel safe, and they can raise their babies for the next month. It takes them about a month to fledge. This is a very intelligent bird. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. They do all different kinds of things on the water. This bird does definitely go out to sea. The trend now is we call these gulls, not so much seagulls anymore, because there are gulls that don't spend a lot of time on the ocean. But this one does, and it breeds mostly California and up into Washington. And it is one of the biggest gulls we have in the Bay. This is the Western gull, and you can see the dark mantle. Up to the right there is one of my pictures from Alcatraz, where I'm standing right next to the nest, and there's the babies. The babies are these little polka dot puffballs until they fledge out. So if you want to see that dynamic, it's really good to go to Alcatraz to see that. It's easy. Down to the right, you can see a difference between the Western gull size, which is where the arrow's pointing, and the two birds on either side, which are yellow ringbill gulls. And ringbill gulls are probably the third most abundant bird on the, probably the second most abundant bird on the lake, depending on what time of year you're there. We can go to the next slide. So from the biggest one of the biggest gulls, we go down to one of the smallest gulls. This is a small gull, and again, back to that picture, you can see the arrows pointing to the two ringbill gulls on either side of the Western and the size difference. Also, these birds are much more aerial. So what we call wing projections, those black tips that come out, those are the primary feathers. And on a ringbill gull, those primaries stick way out past the tail. Whereas on a Western gull, that projection is not as acute. This bird doesn't have a margin, so right around where the primary stick out, the gray mantle has a white margin that separates it from the primary. And I can kind of point to it. I don't know if you can see that, but the black primary stick out, there's a margin of white, and then there's the gray on the mantle. That gray area is called the mantle. On the ringbill gull, that gray margin, that white margin is buffy. So it's not exactly white. It's not a clear demarcation of white. It's a faded white. And you pick that up, and you know you've got a ringbill. And I point that out because all the gulls are gulling is unique. It's really a challenge. Gulls are really a challenge for many people because number one, they will interbreed. And number two, it takes them more than 1 year to become an adult. Most gulls, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, like that. They'll go through different age cycles of molt or plumage before they get to their final adult plumage, or what we call basic plumage. So when they come out the first year, they're all brindle brown colored. And then the second year, they fade more into the adult. And then the third year, if they're a 3-year gull, they go to adult. In case of the Western gull, they go 4 and then 4 years. So depending on the bird, will determine the number of years it takes for them to get to their basic plumage. And so if you go on a gulling trip, you're going to hear a lot of, well, I don't know, I'm not sure. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt because of the interbreeding and because of the multiple years it takes for birds to come to adulthood. All right, so those are gulls. And that one picture to the upper left of the adult, it looks like it has a little black coxcomb. It doesn't. That's a bird that's behind it. Their head is just fully white. They don't have a little black coxcomb on their head like that. And okay, those are gulls. And let's move on. We'll move on. And this is a really challenging bird to see. It's always down here in the wintertime. This is called the spotted sandpiper. And they always travel either in 1s or 3s, depending on if they fledged a baby that's hanging on with them. So they'll bring down their baby with them, and you'll see 2 or 3 of them together. But generally, these birds are solitary. And they are always hopping along the edges of the water and flying around. They make a little tweeter sound, and they bob their tail. So you look for that little bird that's hanging out on the water's edge on the rocks there that you can barely see. And he's looking right back at you, and he's got these little yellow legs, and he's bobbing his tail. You know you've got a spotted sandpiper. They do have spots on the chest at certain times. They will have spots. So look for those marks on these birds, and you know you've got a spotted sandpiper. We don't get many sandpipers in the lake because of the hardscaping. We've taken out all that transition zone between mud and land and water. And so that doesn't give these birds much area to forage. So if we want to see more sandpipers on the lake, we got to soften that shoulder, back that trail up a ways in certain portions so we can have these birds coming back to the lake. All right, next. And everybody knows this one. We mentioned it earlier in the quiz. This is the Anna's hummingbird. And this bird is our one true year-round resident. This bird, if you see a hummingbird in the wintertime, it's an Anna's hummingbird. We do have our Allens, which comes through, and they breed in lesser numbers. But this bird, if you see a bird that has all green over its body, like this bird has green all the way down the back to the tail, and green in the flanks just underneath the wings, and green or some green in the chest or belly, you know you've got an Anna's hummingbird. Allen's has some gray color, or I'm sorry, some golden color intermixed with the green. So you can't mistake it. And also the male, this is obviously a male, on its gorget, it has a shield over the head. None of the other hummingbirds have a shield on top of the head, whereas this bird does. So when you see those things, that tells you got an Anna's hummer. These birds are very territorial, especially when it comes to flowering bushes and trees. One male will take up residence there and defend it against all comers, even though he only weighs like a penny. He doesn't think so. He thinks he's the most ferocious thing on the planet, and he will harass. I've seen him harass eagles and gulls and all kinds of people. They don't care. They're going to let you know. They're kind of like the little Chihuahua dog. They want to let you know that they're doing their job and they're protecting their tree, because those nectar flowers are going to just be there for a short time, and that bird wants to get as much of that nectar as he can. And he will allow the female to come in and take some of that nectar, though, depending on if he's breeding or not. These birds are also insectivores. They eat lots of insects. They make their nest out of spider web. It's really cool. Anyway, we'll move on. That's Anna's hummingbird. All right, so this is our one on the lake. Consistently, you will see this bird. It's again developed a toleration for human activity. This is our black phoebe or flycatcher. So it's the only flycatcher that we have that is solid black like this. Eastern phoebe has black, but there's some white accents to it, whereas this bird is solid black except for the white belly. This bird is some people would consider this perching bird as primitive because the birds don't really have a songs per se, but they do make some big noise that's communicable. So I don't know. But this bird is a flycatcher. It eats plenty of insects, and it will sit until it sees what it wants. Then it goes after it, grabs it, flies back to the perch, and beats it and pulverizes it, and then swallows it down. And these guys don't discriminate. They eat all kinds of insects. They eat bees, no problem. So that's black phoebe. Cool bird. And okay, next slide. And then the other black bird is, of course, the corvid. This is the corvid group. This is the crow, American crow, which is maligned all over, known as the witch's bird or whatever. I don't think so. These birds are very familial. They mate for life. They have territories, and they actually roost together at night. And I don't know what it is about blackbirds and roosting at night, but these guys do. Downtown Oakland, out by the Berkeley Marina, they find their roost sites year after year, and you see all these birds in the evening flying towards these roosts. And I guess they're really something that's pursued heavily by some predators like owls. Owls will eat them. So they're looking for protection, I guess, in numbers. But during the daytime, they disperse back out to their families, their family units. Usually they'll have some fledgling birds that'll hang around mom and dad for a year or two until they find their own mates and territories. And so you'll find these little groups of birds moving around, walking along the streets. These are ground birds. Crows are ground birds, and people always call, we have too many crows. What is going on with the crows? Why are there so many crows? It's because of what we do. The crows are here because of us. We like to take out all of our native bushes and all of our native plants and then put in a lawn and then leave a tree. Well, that's perfect for ground birds. They can walk and they can see the cats and they can see the dogs. It gives them plenty of room to get out. And they can do all kinds. They can find plenty of food in the garbage cans. We're very sloppy, and so it's perfect for this bird to procreate. Lots of big open garbage cans everywhere with food, all kinds of food. So this bird is an opportunistic predator, and it'll take all of that. So we're creating the environment for these birds to proliferate in. And you take out all those native trees and shrubs, that takes away habitat for native songbirds. So you want to start learning. We have a program called Plants for Birds. Check into it on the website, and it'll tell you more about native plants and native shrubs that you can plant in your yard, as well as native trees that will attract more songbirds. Once you do that, and of course, the police are always telling you, and in the neighborhood watches, they tell you, take out the bushes so we can see around your house and all that. That's fine, but there's got to be some balance there. You got to have some shrubs in certain areas if you want to have native birds. And when you put in those shrubs and stuff, then you start seeing songbirds and perching birds show up, and crows start to disappear. Again, these are ground birds. They love open areas with grass and trees. That's perfect for them. So cut that out, put in more native trees and plants, and you'll see the crows' numbers go down. But a very intelligent bird. I mean, this bird is very intelligent. Marzaloff, I think his name is, Marzoff, did a whole, if you can get a hold of that book on American Crow, He gives you all kinds of great information about the crow. You can watch the videos where he goes out one year and he wears mask and he goes up to the crows and oogie boogies them, and they get all upset and then all around the nest, and the birds get all freaked out. And then they come back a year later, and before they turn the corner to walk towards the crows are going nuts because they remember their faces. They had masks on and they remember those masks. And so birds, you say birds don't remember, they do. And they work as a group. We don't think about crows in big flocks generally until there's a predator. And you can see up to the right there's a bald eagle, a young immature bald eagle that's getting the heck out of there because those crows are coming. And they're going to attack and harass until that bird is out of the area. So they have their strength in numbers. Very intelligent bird, can remember things. I actually watched a crow one time walk across the street with a big piece of food in his mouth, walked over to the edge of the building and dug a hole and stuck the piece of food down in the hole. There was another crow across the street and he walked around in a circle, kind of in a curved way, coming up along the side of the building. And the other crow, after he buried the food, started to walk away. Then he looked back and he saw the other crow coming up along the building. So he turns around, walks back over to the hole, undigs the food, digs the food up, picks it up, and walks off. The other bird stands there acting like he wasn't trying to do anything. But that's sentient. That's a bird remembering, oh, okay, this is my food, and he's coming to get my food. And they'll take it and they'll go bury it somewhere else. So they don't always remember where they put it, but they do it often enough. So that's intelligence. It's really cool. All right, enough about crows. I can go on about crows. They're very cool birds. Next slide. And this is one of their little small cousins, the scrub jay. So people say, oh, it's a blue jay. Well, there are blue jays, but those are back east on the other side of the Mississippi. On the western side of the Mississippi, we have two major jay groups. One is the stellar jay group, and the other is the scrub jay group. And this is the coastal or western scrub jay. And they have the coolest, those bright blue colors. You generally see these bright blue colors on the birds that are mostly on the Pacific slope. As you go inland up into the Sierras, you'll get another bird called the Woodhouse's jay, which is not as spectacular as this coastal bird. But this is the scrub jay, and they have the same level of high-level intelligence, burying things and remembering where they are and going back and getting them. This guy's got an acorn in his mouth. He's going to go take that and bury it. Very intelligent. Will steal your lunch. Will steal your sandwich. Will pop the top on your bottles and cans and drink. They do all kinds of weird stuff. But that's a scrub jay. And they love an arid area where there's lots of scrub and open area, or what we call chaparral. That's their area. Stellar jays you find down in the more mesic areas along the creeks in the riparian zone. All right. You can say we got Jim saying crows used to be scarce in the parks, but plentiful now as the landscape has changed in the parks. Yes, we need more native plants and bushes. That'll bring back the song sparrow, the songbirds. All right. All right, we'll move on to the next bird. I think we got a few more and then we're done. And this is my favorite songstress. This is the northern mockingbird. This bird is incredible. And of all birds, this bird is related to the thrasher. This is a kind of thrasher. Most people don't see it as that because it doesn't have that long curved bill. But this is a thrasher. And if you've ever seen a California thrasher, you can see the same kind of behavior. Only this bird has more melodious songs. It has it's been recorded as having 200 some songs in its repertoire. They're very they love to give us a whole concert in the morning. Some people hate it because it wakes them up, but for me, I just enjoy it. I really do, because they pull in all kinds of sounds from because I'm an audible person, and when it comes to bird sounds, I hear a lot of those bird songs in his song. He'll take pieces of other bird songs and then he'll meld it into a mockingbird style. And so if you do a lot of birding, you hear these things, but they're different when they come out of a mockingbird's mouth. So just incredible. And they, of course, they mimic all kinds of other stuff like drumming and wind chimes and trains and car horns and all kinds of stuff. They mimic all this stuff and they mix it into their songs and make it unique. So I just love mockingbirds. They're incredible. And one of the interesting things is that we don't know exactly, these birds live semi-rural areas. They live in the wild as much as they do live around people. But when they're around, it's kind of sketchy why they show up in certain neighborhoods and other areas. In the other neighborhoods, you don't see them at all. So there's something going on there. I'm not sure what it is. May have something to do with pesticides and herbicides that certain communities use or not. I don't know. But it's kind of interesting. All right. And somebody says they heard a mockingbird in Ecuador. Yeah, they do have a mockingbird down there. This is the northern mocker. Again, those mockers do the same kind of thing. They do pick up all kinds of other songs. It's really cool. What else we got? All right, let's move on. All right, and here's a very common American staple. This is the robin. Everybody knows about the robin. Believe it or not, when Western man first got here and was established, especially on the East Coast, this bird was a table bird. In other words, they would shoot it by the hundreds and they would serve it up on a plate. You could get robin at the turn of the century and they'd look at you with a straight face. Do you want some robin? Oh, of course. Thank you very much. You know, there was a normal thing to eat robin. They killed them by the hundreds of thousands. Luckily, this bird didn't go the way of the passenger pigeon or the Carolina parakeet. It moved all over the country, and it's all over the country still. So thank God for that. It's a thrush, similar to a hermit thrush or a Swainson's thrush, but this bird is a bigger bird out in the open, on the ground. Another ground bird like the crow, but not as invasive. Insect eater, and they build a cup nest. And off to the right there, you see a leucistic bird. And so in nature, I like to throw those curves in there because in nature, it will throw you curves. And you'll see a bird that you think is one thing, but actually it's something else. This is a leucistic robin. In other words, it didn't get all of the melanin it should have gotten. So it has this white speckled head, but it is all the same a robin. All right. Okay, next slide. And this is the little chickadee, the little cute one. These birds are little terrors. They eat a lot of meat. There have been reports of these birds picking out the eyes of dying animals. I hate to be so morbid, but they do. They eat a lot of meat. And when you have suet out on your bird feeder, they go for the suet. They love meat. But they will, and they eat a lot of insects. I've seen them eat seeds. They do eat seeds. But their favorite is meat, and cute as they are, they will go for some meat any chance they get. This is a cold weather bird. Generally, they do spend a lot. There's about 7 different species of these guys in the U.S. We get the chestnut back variety here. You can see that chestnut back. Really cool bird that is mimicked by the oak titmouse, and sometimes you can get confused hearing their little chee-dee-dee burp. And that's the if it's really thin and whiny, you know it's a real chickadee. But if it has a lot of buzz to it, it's burry and it's really strong, it's probably an oak titmouse. And both of these guys will mimic back and forth. They both have mimicking powers. They can fill in other songs into theirs as well. But this is the chestnut-back chickadee, one of the tip gleaners, we call them, because they're out on the tips of the branches, eating the buds and eating the insects that they find on the tips of those branches. All right, and we'll move on from that. This is one of my favorites. This is the California towhee, and this is all you get with a California towhee. If you've never heard that term, LBB, little brown bird, or LBJ, little brown jobber. That's this bird. The little brown job. Is not very much exciting going on with this bird's plumage. This is what you get. It's this really brown buff bird with not much going on, but it's a cool bird. It actually has some really nice, charming ways about it. It has adapted to people very well. It lives in urban areas with no problem. These birds are seed eaters mostly. They will eat insects as well, but you look for the little vent, what we call the vent, which is between right where the poop hole is, just underneath the tail. You see that rust color, and on the throat they have some of that rusty color as well. But other than that, they're just kind of brown, grayish looking birds, and they mate for life. If you see one California towhee, believe me, the partner is somewhere nearby. There's usually two. So whenever I see one, I count two, automatic. The adults, they pair for life, and they stay in a pair, and they find a territory, and they stay there. They don't migrate. So this is the California towhee, and a really charming bird, which represents matrimonial bliss. All right, next slide. And these are white-crowned sparrows, and white-crowned sparrows are migratory. We get our resident populations here around the bay, but then there's also, just like the Canadian geese, we have the migrants. There are about 3 different subspecies that move along the West Coast. And they come in from different areas in Alaska, up in Alaska and Canada, from nesting, and they spend the winter down here. And this one, I believe, is Nutchelai. If you look in the lores, usually Nutchelai has a clear lore, which is that space between the eye and the beak, or Gambetes, which will have a line in that area. All right, and this bird is it's a migrant, has a beautiful song, and very different dialects. So even in those 3 races, they have different dialects depending on where they're from when you hear the songs. But very wonderful bird audibly, and again, a winter migrant here in the bay. All right, and they mostly stay along the coast in the marshland areas. They prefer wetland areas mostly, for the most part. All right, and we can see them at the lake. Next. And here's our most famous bird. This is the house finch, one of the fringillids, and it is the most adaptive bird we have. This is a very different story. This bird, most of the time we hear about birds where people come in and those birds get wiped out. In this case, people came in and this bird proliferated. In other words, it saw people as an opportunity. Just like the crow, they see that people like to put out feeders. Hey, that's great. This bird was only found in the Southwest when Western man came into the United States. And within years, it was moving across the United States, and now it's all over the United States, except for the prairie. They don't do well on prairies because there's no trees, and they don't like that. But other than that, this bird is all over the United States now because of people. And they generally follow people around. They can build a cup nest. They can do cavity nesting. They're very adaptable, and just an incredible bird. This is the house finch. They have 2 other cousins called Cassin's finch and the purple finch. But this is the house finch, the one that you'll see around barns and in your backyard and at your feeders. The males have the red, and the females are a dull color without a whole lot of flashiness, but they have the little brown rice along the chest on the flanks. A seed eater, that it has a big fat round bill that crushes seeds or skins seeds to eat. Very adaptive. Was a desert bird. Now it's all over the United States because of humans and our habits. All right, move on from the house finch. And this next bird is their little cousin, the lesser goldfinch. And this is an adult male in breeding plumage. Generally, you don't see them like this, but this is the only slide I could find at short notice. they're a little bit more muddy when they're off of breeding plumage, but this is an adult male. Again, will come readily to feeders. They love the little seeds. They love mustard seeds. You can find them in fields on mustard and all kinds of other seed-bearing native plants. So important to have all those little weedy lots that nobody wants. These birds relish that. It's good to have those little green spaces so these birds can thrive. Okay, next slide. This, I think, is the last slide. This is our butterrump or yellow rump warbler. Used to be called Audubon's warbler, but they actually do interbreed with their East Coast cousin, the magnolia warbler. So we just call them now the yellow rump warbler altogether. And this is the West Coast variety. If you don't, a lot of times these birds get really color up. The males will get a black face sometimes. That chin will start to turn really bright yellow, and the flanks just underneath the wing, it starts to get a real strong yellow. But in the winter, when they're not in breeding, they look like a little LBB, a little brown jobber, until they turn around and you open their wings and you see that yellow on the rump. Thus, the title Yellow Rump Warbler. See that yellow rump, you know you've got that bird. This is a warbler, one of the little insectivores. We have a number of warblers here on the West Coast, but this is one that you can see most of the year. There's birds around, but a lot more in the wintertime as they come down to outlast the winter storms. Toys, yeah, toys have a unique vocalization, particularly when they have to when they reunite. So they'll move around their territory together, but a lot of times they don't see each other. And if they stay separated for a long period of time, when they come back together, they do this little whizzy thing that is very unique. You can't even mimic it, but if you hear it, and you should go check it out. If you're a member of All About Birds, you can get it there, or you can go to a website called Xenocanto, XENTO. And if you go there, you can listen to all kinds of bird sounds for free. It doesn't cost you anything. There's a ton of birds sounds on there. It's really amazing. And you can get familiarize yourself and get good at listening and hearing birds. All right. All right. Any other? I think I'm done. This is our last slide. And
okay.
If there's questions, I'm happy to field, but that's it.
Oh, thank you. That was beautiful. Can we raise hands if we have some questions? Nadia, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for the talk. And I had a question regarding the DDT effect on, I believe it was when you were speaking about the pelicans, but keep me honest there.
Yeah.
Earlier in your talk, can you expound on that a little bit? What was that confirmed to be the cause of the thinning of the eggs, and what were the other?
Yeah, that was not just the pelican, but there were a number of birds like peregrine falcon and a bunch of other birds that were losing. They were noticing that the eggs were crushed on the nest by the parent. And so when they did the research, they found out that DDT was the major culprit, and that's why it was banned. So we've gotten past that one, but now we're dealing with some new stuff, which are the neonicotinoids. And we're putting that stuff on our food plants wholesale. And that stuff is not going away. It actually is getting into the body of the birds, and it's getting into our bodies. We carry this stuff around in us now because we eat so many plants that are being sprayed with neonicotinoids. And it's a bad thing. And we got to really start figuring out how to get rid of that stuff and get it out of the food system. But DDT was one of the old ones. That was back in the 60s, I believe. I liked your addition. You said that Alcatraz meant white albatross?
Well, there's obviously debate about it, but one of the theories is that the word for is it the garnet or
the gannet.
Gannet? Sorry, the gannet looks so much like the albatross that the earlier, explorers, the people saw it, mistook it for the gannet, and which in Spanish is something close to Alcatraz. But anyway, one of the many theories.
Okay,
True.
that's great. It's good to hear. I love to hear all this stuff, and I'm kind of into the etymology, so that's good. Thank you for that.
So Andrew has a question. Do we have ravens here in Oakland and at Lake Merritt?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Plenty of ravens. Yep. But you know that ravens are not as gregarious as the crows are. So you can see a lot of ravens out on the coast. If you go over to Ocean Beach, and there's another Baker's Beach, I believe, you'll see a big group of ravens, but they're not a group. They're actually there because people are sloppy with the food.
You can see a ton of ravens up at the Oakland Zoo at their California Trail, and maybe you could see 40, 50 at a time because they're looking for all the food that the zoo puts out for the wolves and the bears, and you see them actually down in with the wolves and the bears, just like they did in our old, for hundreds of years with our native populations.
Yep. Hi, Linda. How are you?
Hi, Clay.
Yeah. So again, just like most of the corvids, they're very opportunistic. They're not there just to be in a group, but they're there for the food. And then once they get their food, they disperse.
Clay, Kent has a question. What, if anything, eats the cormorants?
What, if anything, eats the cormorants? Oh yeah, there's plenty of things that cormorants have to be worried about. They get got by seals, sea lions, fishermen, any kind of predators on water. Sharks will take them. I mean, it's not easy life for them either. They're great submarines, but they're no match for a sea lion. Sea lions will eat them no problem. Anything else? Yeah, somebody said eagles too. Yep, eagles were losing it. Yeah, it was so many things. It was just you couldn't ignore it anymore, and so DDT had to go. And then, of course, 20 years later, here we are, right back at square one, doing the same crazy stuff.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So,
yeah, cormorants were eaten during Depression. Yeah.
Oh, well.
I think everything was eaten during the Depression. There was nothing ruled out.
Wow. Let's see. Let's see.
One of the most amazing says LMA. Hi, Clay, Layla. Layla here. What is the most amazing bird behavior you've witnessed at the lake? And so that's a good question. I've seen a lot of different behavior at the lake. One of the cool things, I don't have one favorite, but one cool thing was during the big die-off just recently with the was it algae or was it a bacteria? I think it was a bacteria.
It was an algae. It was a relative of, it's a single cell plankton.
Yeah, single cell plankton.
Yeah.
So during that big die-off, we saw some things die that you would never think would be in that lake, and they are. There's this huge polychaete that came up, and I was watching this female Western gull show its fledgling how to reach down and get these things and eat them. Because the polychaetes weren't quite dead. They were kind of floating toward the surface, but they wouldn't go quite to the surface. And so the gulls had to dive under. Gulls are not good at diving, but she would reach down and pull one of those things up and then hand it to the fledgling chick, and he would try it. It was an interesting little behavior just recently seen. That was really cool to see that. I've also seen red-tailed hawks trying to catch coots out there, and those coots, coots aren't good at diving either, but boy, they got really good at diving that day. And they would stay underwater, hoping that eagle would just stop, get tired of taxiing, trying to grab them. Because we know that eagles have hooks. They have these little gaffling hooks. All you do is grab them. All you got to do is grab a bird, and their claws go right through the lung. And if you get a collapsed lung as a bird, it's a wrap. They have air sacs in their body. And once that air system is breached, that bird is never going to be the same again. So that was fun too. That was fun to watch. I could go on.
We have somebody wants part 2, Clay. I'm
Oh,
going
yeah.
to come back and do part 2. Might be too late for tonight, but yeah. It's just really spellbinding to see all these with the beautiful pictures and your experiences that you've had that are unique, and it's been
well,
great.
let's really work, and hopefully we can get that nature center open again.
Yes,
we'll have our nature journaling class there again in the spring. And again, if you want to learn about bird songs, hopefully I'll be at Lake Merritt in the spring as well. I mean, up at Merritt College in the spring as well, teaching that class. But there's always more trips and walks and talks at the Golden Gate Bird Alliance. We've got a ton of them going, and Christmas bird count is coming up. I'll be leading a group over at Martin Luther King Shoreline. If you want to come and join my group, you can say that as you sign up on the website. And also that's on the 17th of December. And then on December the 30th, I'll lead a group up at Dotson Marsh with the Richmond bird count. Dotson Marsh on the 30th of December. So plenty of opportunities if you want to learn more.
Resources.
Yeah.
And those of you who are at the lake, it's wonderful to come down, and whether you're coming on a walk or a talk, or that's wonderful too. There are wonderful signs that you can look at that Major DD has put up, and Rotary Nature Center Friends is out there with our young people, and I know Clay is out there with his groups of young people learning about the lake. So all of this incredible knowledge is just such a resource for everyone in Oakland. It's I'm really inspired now to spend some time this next month going out and seeing these beautiful birds that are right there in the middle of our city. So thank you for that wonderful presentation.
Yes, absolutely. Hope to be back again. We'll do part 2. No problem.
Oh, please. Yeah, you're on. That sounds great. Okay.
Well, Clay, just want to say thank you. I'm always so amazed whenever I hear you speak.
Thank you, David. Yep, we'll be talking to you shortly.
Yes. And it's almost like when I hear you speak, I feel like anybody who gets a chance to hear you, then they're like, oh, well, I guess bird watching is not so bad after all. It's pretty cool.
That's cool. All right, I just put the Golden Gate Bird website in the chat for people. Yeah. All right, so cool. Yeah.
And we'll send out a post chat email, and I'll include that in there as well as some of the other mentions that you had. Links that people would like to see. That would be great.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
If you want to put together a bird walk, I'd be happy to try to collaborate on that too.
Oh, we would. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you to
Thank
all
you
our
for coming.
participants.
Hope to see you in
Joining us.
January with another interesting talk and with Dr. Whiteman. And have a great and safe and wonderful holiday between now and then. And thank you again so much for coming.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Clay and Katie and David and everyone.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you all for coming.
Very much.
See you tomorrow.
Oh, yes, that's true. Yes. Okay.
Thanks for inviting us, David.
Thank you for coming.
And
our pleasure.
Looking forward to hearing from all the winners. So I can get you your prizes. Thank you.